This video contains content that wouldn't be suitable for younger audiences. Parental supervision would be highly advised for any youths watching this video. To begin, let's start with a point a lot of people seem to forget. The purpose of any video game is to place the player into a realistic virtual world. Today, we will be discussing strip clubs and sexual exploitation in games. Over the past few years, sexism in games has been the centre of a lot of controversy. The fact that strip clubs and sex shops are in games has made it so that games have been classified as sexist. It's been said that they exploit the female figure. As quoted by Anita Sarkeesian, "Sex doesn't sell, sexism sells." In this video, alongside another video that I'm working on at the moment, I will be telling you why this isn't the case. So let us begin. We are a sexually promiscuous species, just as dolphins are. And as observed in other sexually promiscuous species, we have sex for fun. But the average person is also attracted to sex, regardless of gender. This is demonstrated not just in video games, but in other media outlets, such as TV, magazines, the lot. And both genders are technically exploited because of this. Let's take a look at a woman's magazine, shall we? Look at how males are shown in these magazines. They are topless, with large muscles. They are most probably deemed as physically attractive. You can't tell anything by looking at them this way. You know nothing of their personalities or hobbies. But the thing is, we are surrounded by sex, even though you may not even realize it. In real life, there are male and female strippers that earn a living by performing in strip clubs or giving private performances, just as there are male and female prostitutes. So let us return to my original point. This realistic virtual world is created for a reason. It's a place where the player can immerse themselves, become the hero of a world, and escape the real world for just a short time. Strip clubs are a large part of reality and our society. Thus, they exist in games. Not only this, but considering the primary target audience of most games, it's understandable as to why game designers chose to have female strip clubs rather than male, though personally, I would prefer to see both male and female strip clubs working hand in hand in video games. Now, before you try telling me that the primary target audience of games isn't what I think and that it is a common myth, let me tell you something. You don't decide the primary target audience, nor do I. And just because the game is equally appealing to those outside the male audience doesn't mean that anyone other than males were the original target audience. The game developers choose the targeted audience. They choose who they want to appeal most to. Now, returning to the original point, the dress sense of many games that are meant to be based more so off reality, such as Grand Theft Auto 5, women are often not decently covered, nor do they have outfits that would appear as such. But why is this? From merely typing into Google Images, "Night Out England," these are the examples that immediately appear. And is it any wonder why women are clothed the way they are in video games when they dress the way they do on a night out. This is becoming the norm in society, and so it becomes the norm in video games. And thus, now we shall return to the earlier quote from Anita Sarkeesian. Sex doesn't sell. Sexism sells. The truth is, neither sex nor sexism sells. And the same applies to video games. What in fact sells is simple biology and primal urges. It's been said by many that we as human beings respond to primal urges. Food is merely one of these urges. A definite other is sex and reproduction. This underlying, pre-programmed disposition to respond to sexual imagery is so strong it has been used for over 100 years in advertising. Thus, this would apply to video games. As quoted by David, "What's more powerful than the leaders of the mightiest military on earth? What has more leverage than a top military commander with millions of troops at his disposal? What leads the strong, most logical men to willfully destroy their own lives and leave their country vulnerable? Romantic love, with all its primal, procreative urges." As quoted by Elizabeth Cowie, while on the one hand, fantasy can be characterized as a series of wishes presented through imaginary happenings, on the other hand, it is also a structure. I raise both of these quotes for a reason, as they link tightly by the way the desire demons were depicted in Dragon Age Origins. These were female demons, that sole purpose were to lure in their victims by using their greatest desires. Elizabeth's statement summarizes the role that doesn't just apply to cinema. It applies to other aspects of the media as well, as they play in presenting the spectator with a site where their fantasies and desires can be explored. The truth is, throughout history, sex in its own right has been exploited, and it hasn't really been a bad thing. Looking at paintings in ancient Greece and Rome, we can see many a naked man and woman. They explored and embraced their sexuality. They explored their desires and wishes, much like how the spectator of a film or video game explores theirs. This also emphasizes on a point I mentioned previously. That is our primal urges, one of which being sex. This is something ingrained in us as a species, and something we can't escape, nor should we want to. When something, such as an advertisement or a game, is more sexually provocative, men in particular are irresistibly drawn to them, though this does apply to females, and it's down to simple genetics. Humans respond to sexual images. Bearing this in mind, we look at Gallup and Robinson, an advertising and marketing research firm. Gallup and Robinson reported that in more than 50 years of testing advertising effectiveness, it has found the use of the erotic to be significantly above average techniques in communicating with the marketplace. With this in mind, this also applies to video games, as the makers must sell the product that they have worked so tirelessly to create. By having used erotic imagery in their games, it assists them in selling their creation. This research in itself is what led to the popular idea that sex sells, and as argued earlier, this isn't the case, as it is primal urges that lead sex to selling. As quoted by a feminist, Camille, turning people into sex objects is one of the specialities of our species. Not only this, but Danish criminologist, whose name I don't dare attempt to pronounce, found that the legalizing of pornography in Denmark had not resulted in an increase of sex crimes. Since his findings in 1970, many other experiments have been conducted, either supporting or opposing his findings. Some studies have been found to show a decrease in sexual crimes, such as rape and sex abuse, due to sexually explicit materials being at hand for anyone. This also supports there being sexually explicit materials such as strip clubs and prostitutes being in video games. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Depiction of women in games, strip clubs and prostitutes. And I hope you'll stay tuned for my next video on the depiction of women in video games, where we'll discuss the depiction of women from an educated standpoint with actual sources. Thanks for watching and see you next time.